I want to throw this at you. You may have heard this before. So for some of you, it's something that you've heard, and for others, it's going to be new. But did you know that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it? And listen, that is so simple. I mean, it really is that simple. It's life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. And that goes across the board. And if you don't believe me, let's just use a simple example of relationships. Let's say that you're a man or a woman and you can't seem to find yourself in a good relationship. In other words, you find yourself in abusive relationships, or you find yourself in relationships with people who are cheaters and don't understand what it means to be faithful, or people who show up as a representative and then they switch it on you and there's something else. They don't have a good work ethic, whatever the case may be. But that's who you find yourself in a situation with. Yeah, I get it. That's rough. But here's the deal. If it happens to you one time, then you might be able to say to me, hey, that was them. But if your track record says that this is reoccurring, then at some point you have to say, okay, wait a minute, what's going on here? And so if you can do that, then you might be able to find, in this case, someone to spend your life with. But now, here's where it gets interesting. In order to do that, it requires two different things. Let me take it back. It requires a number of ways you could approach this, but I'm going to share two that I think may help you. One is conflict management. Now, being able to address conflict is cool. And I'm not really talking about the whole, I'm not referring to in this moment in time all of the systems that incorporate conflict management skills. I'm more so referring to maybe the first step, and depending on how you look at conflict. Some say the first step is removing yourself from any situation that's volatile, but others say the first step is identifying the problem. So in this moment, we're talking about conflict management in the sense of identifying the problem. What is your ability and what is your capacity to identify the problem? So let's use relationships. You find yourself in relationship after relationship that doesn't work, and your response to that is there ain't no good men and there is no good women. There are no good women in this world. So for you, out of the 8 billion people on this planet, none of them are any good. Now, while that could be the case, I think there might be another problem at play here. The other problem at play may be your inability to select someone and be with someone who is true to you. Let me say that again. Your inability to get with somebody who's for you. So that's the problem. See, now understand, I identified the problem. The problem is not all these people out to hurt you in relationships. That ain't the problem. That's the problem. You might want to make it, but you can't do nothing with that. Because that just says that the world is a mean and evil and nasty place, which it is. But I also believe that ain't the case that everybody's out to get you. No, it could be, but highly unlikely. Got to be somebody out there for you. So the problem isn't that the world is out to get you and send you no good mate. It could just be that right now you haven't sharpened your skill set to find the person for you. That's the first piece, being able to identify the problem. Now, the second component that I think may help you in this situation is emotional intelligence. See, I love emotional intelligence because emotional intelligence suggests that, one, you're able to see what's going on with you. You're able to adjust and modify whatever's going on with you. And then because of that, you're able to manage whatever's going on with you and other people, right? And then that just strengthens your relationships. So in this situation, if you think about it, right, being self-aware may cause you to see that the reason that you keep finding yourself in these situations, these relationships that aren't working, is because maybe you're an enabler. And you're finding people who already got some crazy stuff going on in their life, and you just get with them and you enable all the BS, right? Or you could be codependent, where you can't see yourself living without somebody, no matter how crazy it is for you to be with them, right? There's a number of things, but you have to be able to you have to be able to look at yourself and say, okay, this is how I'm showing up. And then once you can look at yourself and say, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, I see now. I'm showing up in such a way that I keep finding myself with these people that ain't working for me. You have to be able to say, okay, let me stop this. Let me regulate what's going on. Now, see, once you can look at who you are and regulate what's going on in your life, it looks a little different. Once you can do that, then you do stuff like have a pro and cons chart that you go by. You have these standards that you live by, right? That if people ain't meeting the rubric, ain't aligning to this system that you set up for yourself, right? They ain't following in place in this system, then they don't get a chance to get with you, right? And then, but if you can adhere to this system that you create because you know who you are and you know how to manage what you want and who you are and what you do in your life, then you could end up with the relationship for you. Now, I use relationships in this situation because I think that's easy for all of us to wrap our arms around, right? You don't find yourself in a good relationship, and the first thing you automatically assume is that the 8 billion people on this planet, they're just here to get you, right? There's no good people. But if we really think about it, we know that really ain't the case. What we know is that we just keep finding ourselves with the person that ain't for us. So in this moment right now, what we're talking about in this 10% is, okay, let me find the person for me by removing, right, or being more intentional about the people that I select to spend my time with. So I think if you can do that, and if you can take that approach and fully understand it, then it applies every part of your life. Life truly becomes 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. And while we're here, let me take it one step further. See, the life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it is all about knowing that it really is how we interact. It really is on us. Have you ever heard someone say, in a moment of when they was upset about something, when they were upset, they go, don't make me revert back to the old me, or you gonna make me show up like I used to show up? Nah. Listen, that don't work. Let me tell you why that doesn't work. More than likely, you're at a different place. To even be able to make a comment like that suggests that where you were then and where you are now is two different places. And the reason you can't necessarily revert back to the old you because the tools that you use to get through the situations of days of old won't necessarily work in these situations. So you can't revert back to the old. I mean, you could, but it might not give you the outcome that you're expecting. And more than likely, in this case, in this point of your life, you probably have more to lose. So just think of this. When you go about your day and something happens to you, some type of calamity, some type of chaos, and you want to project, you want to make it about everything around you, understand that that doesn't move the needle. What moves the needle is how you respond to whatever else is going on around you. And the other side to that is this. The more you have these situations where you have to navigate who you are around these situations, the better you become in navigating life. And as you all know, life is about steady growth. So keep it going.